Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
I'm Kristin.
This is So I'm Watching Riverdale, episode 18, Next to Normal. Polly's dead. Cheryl has the twins. They sang Next to Normal a lot. It was real organic.
It was a bold move to make the Grieving Polly episode a musical episode. Especially because this is the music that, out of all of the musicals, I've almost enjoyed this music the most.
It was the one they did last season. It was really good.
I think I did.
You did. Check the tapes. We literally have it recorded.
You might have liked it better.
No,
I don't think I've liked anything in years.
Yeah, you did. It was either the last season or season before. Hedwig. You liked the music in Hedwig.
I did kind of like Hedwig. That's right.
Also, this music was terrible. It was
it
was so literal. It was so on the nose.
That's part of what I liked about it, is because it made fucking sense in the story. None of the musicals that they do ever make sense in the story.
It didn't make sense for the rest of them to be. Why was Veronica singing?
That was stupid. I even commented on that. That was dumb as shit.
It was. I don't know. I mean, it was really bad. I'm like trying.
I don't know, honey. Honestly, I have to think about that. Oh my god.
I don't understand what the point is. I don't understand what the point of any of this is. I've always been.
Also, next week is the season finale. We should mention. This is weirdly placed like 3 times over.
I've always been a Riverdale apologist. I've actually liked the musical episodes. For the most part, it was always strange to me when they all were singing, like the Carrie musical, because they had a framing device for that, where it was like the school musical. And even with Hedwig, it was sort of like there was...
That was a school musical too. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was sort of like a reason for why they were singing. And I mean, I would have even accepted the Alice being lost in a musical fantasy.
Except for then all of them shouldn't have been singing.
There was too much plot for this episode for this to be the Polly's dead episode.
Yeah, okay, again, there were like 4 different plot lines going at the same time, to the point of like, why are these things all happening together at the same time?
It was so uncomfortable. It was so awkward. And multiple times characters just sort of whipped around and started screaming in each other's faces.
The night is young.
like screams, singing, and because with that whole musical number with Jughead and Tabitha, and I can't say that it came out of nowhere because they were laying this groundwork earlier in the season
since we first met Tabitha.
But too much time, for me, I guess, passed in between.
I agree.
That it fell out of nowhere, and it was just sort of. It was them singing an ugly song at each other's faces.
Hey.
And there was too much of that. Like, this isn't an assessment of the show because I don't know. I haven't seen the show, but none of it felt organic, even though, for me at least, because you said you liked it the most because it.
The only reason I like that the most is because they always are like shoehorning these musical numbers into Riverdale that don't mean anything about Riverdale. And so this was like blessedly on topic.
But I was surprised that the musical numbers weren't acknowledging they were filming a TV show. Like it was so like, mother, as I look into your face, singing this song. And it just like, it was so arrhythmic. Like I don't know. I'm really annoyed, and I feel like I shouldn't be. Like, I feel like I need to bring it down. But I'm so frustrated that I didn't even like Polly, and I'm so frustrated that this is how they're dealing.
I agree with you about that, especially because Alice. Oh God, Alice. I love Metch and Amick so much, and I don't know where they lost Alice. The writers lost Alice, because she only is a cohesive character because of Metchin. Mm-hmm. And it just like does not work on any other level. And she just like, Polly's been missing for months. This has to have crossed her mind that they might find Polly dead. You know what I mean? And so it's like, perhaps I'm coming at this as from too literal of a place, but it's like, this took her off the deep end in a way that I'm like, ugh. Plus, Charles is still alive out there somewhere.
Is he? I can't remember. I don't, because it's like, if this was an episode where the character of Alice Cooper had snapped, had some sort of like disconnect from reality, and was seeing her son and daughter was seeing a perfect family, and meanwhile Betty goes to talk to her friends and she's like, there's something wrong with my mom. I'm not sure, yada yada. I don't if there was a slower build or if there was more thought or something, but it was so frenzied. It was so jam packed, like packed to the gills. And again, everybody being on the same page, because the only scene again that worked for me, again being, was Cheryl telling off her mother Penelope.
Yeah, but I will argue with you about that, because it's like, how many times in the past has this show straight up dropped a storyline for like 3 episodes to focus on something else, and meanwhile we can't drop this Cheryl's church story for this episode where something truly emotionally important is happening? We can't just let Archie and Veronica be happy in their gross, boring relationship for 1 week and drop that storyline while we focus on something emotionally important. It's like, those didn't need to be in here at all.
So what, honest to God, what was wrong? There was
Veronica?
Other men in the house?
No, she doesn't feel like herself. She feels like she's losing herself. And I was like, it's been 3 days, bitch. She was starting to feel like she did in her marriage with Chad. Which also is just like,
how does walking in on Jughead and Uncle Frank in the bathroom? No, it's because
Archie's gone all the time and he's doing other stuff and she's alone and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, also, it's like so rude to compare Chad and Archie. Archie is like,
did she murder Chad?
She did. She shot him.
Well, now I feel like he has to show up in the finale with like a head bandage, because there was no acknowledgement of it whatsoever. Like, they didn't even get a statement from her. Like,
well, I guess they had signed the papers, hadn't they, too? They had signed the divorce papers, because when he was all bandaged from Archie Captain America-ing him with the, like, trash can. Whatever. It's like, I don't care. I just don't care.
But imagine you just murdered your ex-husband and then move into your new boyfriend's frat pad. And then after 3 days, they don't like your chicken cordon bleu.
It wasn't even about that. Then why
do we have that scene?
Because they had to show them having to run out and leave her at dinner alone with Jughead because they had a fire, because they're still firefighters.
Okay.
So Archie's a firefighter. He does ROTC at the school. He runs the gym. There's something else in there. He's still a vigilante sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a minor. Ha! Thank you, Rachel. Rachel's in here. It's just that but that's the other thing too, is like, that I don't understand is like, why would she be why wouldn't that make Archie more appealing to her? Because he has his own interests and like tasks and stuff out of the house. They can have their separate like career lives and come back together like emotionally and physically.
Well, because she wanted him to move into the Pembroke, which, I mean, I guess that checks in that if her issue is that she wants their relationship on her terms and wants him to be. Well,
that was not even that. That's, again, you're going too deep with it, because she asked him that before she moved into his house. So it's not anything about the other boys in the house. That was never brought up as an issue.
Was going to bring up that he was like, well, we better move into my house because there's more room to grow.
Not with 3 other dudes living there.
Well, and the Pembroke is a hotel, so I don't understand
that she owns, right?
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Also, it was just, again, after post-murdering her husband, like, max 3 days ago, she just was like, let's move in together and take the next step. And I'm like, so fast.
What were Tabitha's parents doing? I mean, they sucked, but why were they there? What did that?
Nothing. They sucked so hard. They were just like,
she's like building this, that her grandfather, correct? She's his.
Yeah. And her father had worked there too and couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Which, believe me, I mean, that's a sentiment I understand, like trying to get away from your hometown,
but then, like,
or
not
a dead
appreciating
end.
The legacy that your father built and that your daughter
is currently working towards.
And like, okay, we all have our issues with Jughead, but he kept on making cracks about Jughead having like, I bet he's too busy scraping ketchup off the tables, and it's just like, whoa.
But I'm asking why they brought them in.
I have no clue. In this episode, no clue. We didn't need that either.
I'm surprised they weren't at the funeral the way they were shooting. Like, what business did Penelope have being at that funeral? Well, okay, no, Polly was Jason's.
Polly was a Cooper, yeah. And the twins
Blossom.
Blossom. And the twins are Blossoms too.
Which were also, we gave the twins and Britta to Cheryl for some reason.
Well, I think Cheryl was just watching the twins. We didn't give her the twins, but we gave Cheryl Britta, which is, I think, the worst move. Because I was like, oh, Tony and Fangs are going to take her in. That's so nice. Let's give her to Cheryl. Let's give an emotionally vulnerable, just out of the closet lesbian girl who has nowhere else to turn to Cheryl.
Who was also kidnapped.
Yeah. Bad. And has also joined more than one cult. Bad move.
And then, I mean, yes, I could tell, or I could assume that they were trying to head somewhere with Tony and Fangs. Although the captions, we watched things with captions, the captions weirdly kept calling him Fogarty. It was upsetting to me.
Well, that's his last name.
Okay, so if Betty says something in the caption, say Cooper smiles, or like...
Well, there's more than one Cooper. Well, there's only one Fangs, too. I don't know.
The caption, it was like Fogarty scoffs, and I was like... It was very odd, but I understand that they did technically put in the groundwork for that.
But last week only.
It still felt like it was out of nowhere, especially for I Love You. It was, I don't know.
Because that's the thing is like the I Love You needs more clarity, because it's like, I believe they love each other. I don't believe they romantically love each other yet. Not yet.
I don't know. I genuinely hated this. I hated everything about it.
I didn't hate it that bad.
And I don't know if I've just hit my saturation point where it's just no longer fun. But I'm like angry.
Yeah.
I'm bored. I'm so bored.
Maybe do you want to continue this alone?
No. I mean, I wouldn't have enough to say by myself. So, I mean, there's only one more episode, but then we start up again in a month.
Mm-hmm.
So, for season 6, yeah. So, I don't know. We'll have a little break at least.
This was very, very poorly
also
very poorly written and plotted.
Every fucking time that Charles came on screen, he was putting so much mustard on this performance. He was like, this might be my last time. This might be it for me.
So I kind of love Wyatt Nash, but he was entering every scene face first.
And then Casey Cott even had that one really aggressive, like, whoa!
But you can't give up now.
So intense.
The Casey Cott one, that was particularly egregious. It was just shocking.
We're so focused on Betty, and then it's just like a quick cut to him going, whoa! Like, it's so much.
It honestly, it was reminding me of in Happy Endings when Penny's mother, Megan Mullally, comes to visit and makes her sing her feelings.
Sure.
You're not addressing some serious emotional and practical issues.
I don't know why you're trying to bring me down. I'm just keeping it positive.
But you're delusional.
And that's what it was like. And there was that one scene where they were all just so in Alice's face. Like everybody was like, right. And I was like, back up.
So I have a feeling that comes from the Broadway show. I would imagine it's kind of like that on Broadway.
Sure.
Like,
and in another reality, there's a version where I'm complaining that they're not picking unique enough musicals. And
I've never heard of this.
They should be introducing, an audience to a musical and stuff. But in this reality where they did that, I hated it. So I didn't understand it. And I'm not one of these people who it's like bold or avant-garde or satirical writing is one thing. Like, people who don't know what they're talking about have a tendency to be like, oh my God, the writing's so bad. And it's like, well, you don't like what they're doing. That's not bad writing. This was bad writing. I don't feel like it was poorly plotted and poorly written.
Well, sure. Also, I noticed because I had the the song list breakdown. They were pulling from Act 2 at the beginning of the episode, and I'm like, you can't. There needs to be a narrative line. Also, like, at one point, whatever song Cheryl sang, that was a song for Alice's character.
Mm-hmm.
So Cheryl was singing a song that wasn't even hers.
Yeah,
and there is no Cheryl character, you know?
I don't know. None of it felt authentic to me. None of it felt organic to me. None of it felt... it's a simple... I was bored. We frequently say I can forgive a multitude of sins, but I was bored. I wasn't interested, wasn't excited to watch this episode. I made us watch an entire episode of Hill House beforehand because I didn't want to watch this episode.
Oh, I didn't know that was why.
I didn't either until we were watching it, and I was like...
Oh, right. So, okay, I liked a couple of things.
I knew when I missed the episode and never went back to watch it that I don't care anymore.
Oh, yeah. You never went back and watched the Treehouse of Horror one. Yeah. So I did like a couple of things.
So this is me saying goodbye, bidding adieu.
We're at least doing the finale next week. The most of the things that I liked were straight up acting moments. The things that I liked the most were like, you can't, Lily Reinhart and Mädchen Amick.
It had a few moments that did feel like Riverdale, particularly them.
Mm-hmm. But for fuck's sake, can we let Mädchen Amick not cry next week? That'd be sweet. That's all I'm saying. Sweet. She has other modes, other acting levels.
Remember when she wore that red dress and came into the party to
It was
thunder?
shorts. It was shorts with a train.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do remember that. And the snake necklace.
Remember when she was a villain?
Yeah. That dirty Archie Andrews.
I want to release those episodes. We will I will win this fight one day.
All right, do it. Do it.
We have recorded the entire series, but 2 of our seasons are possibly caught up in legal stuff.
Ramifications.
But she was certain that Alice called Archie dirty. And it got more each time you would tell the story. And I was like, she has never once called him dirty. And we checked the tapes and it was true. But
she didn't.
That dirty Andrews boy. Filthy. I'm really sorry. I'm like, it's hard for me to pretend. And like I said,
you did not pretend tonight.
I didn't know what to do. I mean,
we've got one more episode. It looks like blessedly Archie and Betty are hooking up again, and Reggie and Veronica are hooking up again. So if we can just focus on the hooking up, maybe we'll get somewhere. But yeah. You'll have to let us know if you're going to try to force us to watch season 6, because right now Will's out.
The Pussycat number, the Josie and the Pussycats number with It's All Coming Back. Yeah. That worked for me because that wasn't literal. They weren't literally in the school singing their issues at each other's faces. It was sort of a fantasy.
It was like Josie's fantasy.
And it captured how Valerie and Melody felt. It did character work for their characters, and it filled in plot, but it took us on a ride where this derailed the episode every step of the way for me. And
also, let's maybe treat Cole Sprouse like the Allison Hannigan. He doesn't sing very much anymore. It was not good. And I love Cole Sprouse. It was not good.
All right. We'll see you next week for the finale.
Bye.